is there are new terminologies, new concepts, a new subject as such, if you can understand, that you have undergone so far. And now this is the first course, which is the fundamentals of plant pathology, which is PAT 211, which is a 2+1 course. Before I start my class, I would like to, since we are into online, I request all of you to make sure that you are having a good connectivity, or you go to a place where you have a good connectivity, and so that we don't miss any of the topics that we are discussing. Basically, since I already told, this subject should be a new, most of the topics will be new. I will make sure that I would make it very slow, so that can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So before we get into the course, so just I would like to give some preamble that what we are going to talk about in this particular semester is, more often we talk about the microbial pathogens. And one more thing I would like to request is, please mute, and whenever you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand, or you can even stop me at any point of time. Okay. I will switch off my video because for the good connectivity. Okay. So this course, what we are talking about, the fundamentals of plant pathology. Okay.
Yes, sir.
PAT 211 2+1 course. Are we clear, boys? So this is what the course that we will be talking about in this entire semester. I know what is the plant pathology. By this time, you might have got the basic understanding what we'll be talking about. So as such, if we understand what is the thing that we are going to talk in this course is enormous. Firstly, we would like to introduce, which is the terminologies that is coming under this, like what do you exactly mean by a plant pathology? And also we talk about plant diseases, which is very, very important when it comes to the crop production or the production of any of your crops. Before we start with these so-called as the subject as such, there are several reference books. What are these reference books that is available? Because there are hundreds of books that I've come across on plant pathology, but I am going to give you the references which are most widely accepted and most widely read. I repeat, most widely accepted and most widely read. Please stop me if you cannot understand any of the word, because online you might have a lot of difficulties because of the connections. Okay. The first reference, which I am very, very confident of using these references or a reference book, is a book called as Plant Pathology. The name itself is a Plant Pathology, which is written by George N. Agrios. George N. Agrios, which is a very famous book. Whenever you want to talk about the plant pathology, this was so many. This is a 5th edition. Basically, this is a 5th edition book. Okay. 5th edition book. So next time when I ask if you which is the book that you're referring, very commonly is you should straight away say that Plant Pathology written by George N. Agrios, most often called as an Agrios book, which is now we have a 5th edition, the 5th edition. What is this book talking about? This book, it provides an extensive coverage of an abiotic, the fungal, viral, bacterial, nematode, and other diseases. Or other plant disease associated epidemiology. It also of resistance and modern management of plant diseases. Okay, I am a little bit specifying this particular book because this book, if you can read, it gives a holistic understanding about the plant pathology. This is, I can say, an excellent book for anyone who wants to practice plant pathology. Okay. The other books which we have to remember for reference, one is the Plant Pathology and Plant Pathogens. Plant Pathology and Plant Pathogens, which is written by John A. Lucas. Which is written by John A. Lucas. Okay, so this is also about talking a lot of information, in-depth information about the plant pathology and its related subjects. The another book, which is also a very nice book, which I can say, which is called as the Fundamentals of Plant Pathology. The Fundamentals of Plant Pathology, which is written by R.S. Mehrotra and Ashok Agarwal. Ashok Agarwal. So this book is basically meant to understand the principles of plant pathology, which mainly talks about different diseases caused by different organisms. And it is basically for an undergraduate students, it is providing all the information that is required with respect to the principles of plant pathology. Okay. Another classical book, which is written by Rangaswamy, which is called as Diseases of Crop Plants in India. Diseases of Crop Plants in India, which is written by Rangaswamy and Mahadevan. So this is a book where if you want to understand each diseases and the morphology of those organisms, the classification of those organisms, the physiology of those organisms, and the genetics. So this is one of the classical book, I can say, where anyone can refer to understand the crop diseases as such. Especially in India, especially in Indian context, what are the diseases? So this book is going to provide all this information. Another book, which is called as Plant Disease Management. The Plant Disease Management, which is also a very popular book, which is written by R.S. Singh. I think this is one of, it has got a multiple editions of this book. And I think as of now, if we see, it is a 10th edition that is available. The 10th edition that is available. And this is a book where, again, describes the diseases of a field crop and number of vegetable crops, and also the use of biocontrol, like biological control measures for most of the plant diseases. Okay. And The other book which I can say is The Essential in Plant Pathology. Essential in Plant Pathology, which is written by Schumann and Cleora, which is a book from American Phytopathological Education System. American Phytopathology is one of the well-known, recognized society about plant diseases and plant pathology. Okay, and of course, there are some other books like the Basic Plant Pathology Methods. The Basic Plant Pathology Methods, which is written by James and Sinclair, and several other people are also associated with this. And also, there are some laboratory-based books, which is Plant Pathology Concepts and Laboratory Exercise. Plant Pathology Concepts and Laboratory Exercises, which is written by Boney and is Powlen, Robert, and Triviano. Okay. And there is one more book which is written by R.S. Singh again, which is called as Introduction to Principles of Plant Pathology, which is written by R.S. Singh again. So like this, I can say that you will find many books like this. So you can use these books for your, whichever is more comfortable. But I would rather say that the book, which is written by Georgian Agrios, is a standard book where you can easily refer, where you have an opportunity to understand the pathology in terms of stories, basically, in terms of stories. Of course, we will also be talking about many of the stories about the plant diseases and plant pathology, how it has evolved, and so on and so on. So if you understand as such, we are into now the course that is plant pathology. Can anyone define plant pathology? Can anyone define plant pathology? Anyone? Feel free to talk. That's very important, because you also should come out with your ideas. In my class, it should be very open to talk, not out of the subject, within the subject. So this 1 hour, we should talk about the subject as such. So if you have to define the plant pathology, it is also called as a phytopathology. Phytopathology. Here we are talking about as a plant, here as a phyto. Both are same. Phyto means a plant. Pathology is a branch of agriculture sciences. What is this? This is a branch of agriculture sciences, which deals with, number 1 is the etiology. Number 2, the losses caused by the diseases. Number 3 is the management of a disease, management of a plant disease. In a simple way, if you have to define the study of the plant pathology or the phytopathology, is a branch of agriculture sciences which deals with the etiology, that is the causal agent. Etiology is what is the causal agent and the losses caused by that particular causal agent and the management that we are going to follow for this particular disease. So with this, you should have an objectives of plant pathology. What are the objectives of the plant pathology? What are the, why we need to study the plant pathology is one of the biggest thought that we should come across. Why we need to study? There are 4 major objectives to study plant pathology. 4 major objectives. Number 1 is basically the study of living, non-living, and the environmental causes of a disease or a disorder in the plants. The first objective of the plant pathology is to study the living and non-living and environment disorders are the causes of a plant disease. What are the environmental disorders like flooding, high temperature? What are the non-living? Non-living are like your oxygen depletion, nutritional deficiencies. All these are basically coming under the plant pathology as such. And of course, the living, it is due to the organisms. That is the major part that we will be discussing. And number 2, the second objective is to study the mechanism of disease development. The mechanism of disease development by a pathogen, especially by a pathogen. How the pathogen is infecting the crop and how the symptoms are expressed. That is one of the second important objective while studying the plant pathology. And the third objective of the plant pathology is to study the interaction. To study the interaction of what? Interaction between plant and pathogen. Plant and the pathogen, especially in relation to overall environment. In relation to overall environment. In the third objective, what we will be studying is, we will be studying the interaction between the plant and the pathogen and the pathogens in relation to overall environment. And last but not the least is the development systems of management of a disease. Of what is basically we are concerned about a disease, especially the plant disease. And once if you develop this management system, thereby you're going to reduce the losses. Reduce the losses caused by plant diseases. Okay. Are we clear until now? Anyone can respond? Anyone can respond, please?
Yes, sir.
So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So moving forward, thank you. At least you can message. That would be great. Thank you. Moving forward. So this is what we have defined now is what exactly you mean by a plant pathology. What are the major objectives of plant pathology is where we need to understand why we need to study this subject as such, the subject as such. Okay. So often people call the plant pathologist. Plant pathologist as the physician in the plant world. Physician means you normally go to a doctor whenever you're sick. So people bring these the plants which are deceased. So we are called as a plant pathologist or a physician in the plant world. Probably after you complete your degree, you can also be called as a physician if you are practicing plant disease or plant pathology. I was defining so-called as the pathology as such. In the very beginning, I was mentioning about a definition so-called as a branch of agricultural sciences which deals with the cause, etiology, losses, and the management of a plant disease. But if you take the meaning of this particular word, there are two words that you can see. The pathos. Pathos refers to suffering or ailment. Refers to a suffering or an ailment. And of course, you know that the logos or the logy is the study. So how do you define now? You define the pathology as the study of suffering or the study of ailment, okay? Or the knowledge of suffering, the knowledge of the suffering. So this is a very simple definition. Anyone can really keep this in mind for a longer time. Pathology, patho is suffering and logy is a study or a knowledge. And this subject is not a new subject. It's old. It's basically related to the old and new sciences. The old and the new sciences. What is the old science then? Old science, if you know very well, earlier we used to have basically everything was coming under like physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology. More specifically, if you have to call this, is PCMB, your PUC word, right? The PUC word. Why we are referring here? How this pathology is related to the old science, that is PCMB, physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology? Definitely, it is linked. I'm not just saying that it is just, though it is more of biology, it also involves the mathematics, it also involves the chemistry, it also involves the physics. How? Chemistry, because the fungicides which are used to control the diseases is derived from the chemistry. The mathematics, we use various statistical models or the statistics to explain the disease development, explain the pathogen infection, and also the management or the control by a particular chemical. Coming to the physics, which is the most interesting part, people have been studying how much pressure that a particular pathogen is putting on a plant to cause a disease. And basically also the spray equipments which are derived from the physical part. Of course, the biology is the major part that we can see. So then, what are the new sciences that which are belonging to plant pathology as such? One among is the latest, the molecular biology. Molecular biology is the new science which is also used in plant pathology. How molecular biology? is because you know that the microbes, all these plant pathogens are the microbes, whether it could be a fungi, bacteria, virus, or a nematode. To diagnose or to detect these organisms, we have to use the molecular biology, as well as to understand the interaction between a pathogen and the plant. So the molecular biology is the most important one for understanding this the mechanism of infection. And also later the bacteriology, which is study of bacteria, and mycology, which is study of the fungus, and the virology, which is the study of the viruses, nematology, which is study of the nematodes, and the plant anatomy is also the subject. The plant anatomy and the plant physiology. Now you can ask a question: why the plant physiology is related to the plant pathology? Whenever a pathogen infects a particular plant, there is a physiological changes that is brought about. What are those physiological changes? Mainly, like if you can say, like how the photosynthesis is affected, how the respiration is affected in the plant, and thereby the physiology is changed. And the genetics, because the genetics here, mainly the picture of the genetics comes only because the development of a resistant varieties for a particular pathogen or a race, and so on. As well as the biochemistry is also one of the subject, because whenever there is an infection by the pathogen, there is a biochemical changes that is brought about, mainly with respect to the phenolic content, the sugar content in the plant. Sometimes some of the biochemical compounds provide resistance against a particular pathogen. So the biochemistry is also very, very important when we talk about a plant pathology. And as well as the statistics, because I already told them when we use the mathematics for understanding the disease development, or to develop a forecasting model or a forecasting of a particular disease, so the statistics are going to be very important. And lastly, the soil science is also one of the branches or a related subject of plant pathology. Why? Because some of the conditions for the soil-borne diseases like wilt and root rot diseases, the soil properties are also influencing the disease development. So thereby, you should also understand what type of soils are required for the disease development. Some soils favor, or the soil conditions or pH conditions also influences the disease development. So the bottom line, what we are trying to understand is the study of plant pathology is related to most of the old and the new sciences, such as your physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology, followed by your specialized subjects, which could be your molecular biology, the bacteriology, the mycology, virology, nematology, also the botany, that is the plant anatomy, the plant physiology, genetics, statistics, biochemistry, and the soil sciences. These are all the subjects which are required to study, so-called as the plant pathology as such. So means to say you need to have a broader view of all the subjects that need to be understood.
Sir,
Yes, please.
molecular biology, how will related to plant pathology? Not understand.
Yes, it's an excellent question. You know that molecular biology deals with all biotechnological tools, right? So here, in case of molecular biology, all the detection methods, that is mainly the virus, bacteria, and identification methods, which, for example, your molecular methods like PCR, ELISA, and so on. So all these are required for in plant pathology to diagnose as well as to understand how the virus or a bacteria interacts with the host pathogen. So where understanding of molecular biology is required to know their interactions, how the virus is getting inside and how it is damaging the cells, how it is modifying the genome, and so on. And one of the best example I can say is your agrobacterium, which is used as for your genetic engineering, that is for transferring the gene of your interest, which is your agrobacterium is nothing but a pathogen. It is a plant pathogenic bacteria causing crown gall. Okay, this I'm going to talk about later when you start understanding about a bacteria. So in overall, I can say that the molecular biology, whatever the molecular biology methods that we use for in biotechnology, all those methods are also used in plant pathology, mainly for the diagnosis, to understand the interaction, also to develop the resistant varieties, mainly using the resistant genes and thereby transferring into it. So thereby the molecular biology is also a part of your, I can say nowadays, the molecular biology, the plant pathology is more called as a molecular plant pathology. Without molecular biology, nothing can be done in plant pathology except for management and other aspects. If you want to identify a particular pathogen, you need to use these tools, that is either PCR or a whole genome sequencing or a qPCR or RT-PCR. So all these are being used. Okay. So with this, we will just end up with talking another important about what is called as a plant disease. A plant and a disease, you know very well. When a plant is basically, when a plant is suffering, that is not developing and functioning in a normal manner, then we call this as a plant disease. What is a plant disease? A plant disease, when a plant is suffering, number one is suffering, very important, and not developing and functioning in a normal manner. Underline this. We can call it as a disease. In a simple word, if you have to ask me, I will put it in this way. Whenever the plant is not in ease, then it is called as a disease. Whenever a plant is not in ease, it is called as a disease. Simple definition. Lost it. Okay, we were talking about the plant disease. So where American Phytopathological Society defines it as a deviation. Deviation from normal functioning. Functioning of what? Functioning of a physiological processes. Functioning of a physiological processes of a sufficient duration. Physiological processes of a sufficient duration or an intensity to cause the disturbance, of the vital activities of the plant. So it is very clear. The deviation from the normal functioning of a physiological processes for a sufficient duration, that is known to cause the disturbance of a vital activities. Vital activities is basically for the plant, it is the translocation, the transpiration, and your photosynthesis, and so on. So when there is a deviation in this, so that is basically this is a plant disease. Similarly, the British Mycological Society, it is also one of the well-known society, British Mycological Society, defines the disease as an harmful deviation from normal functioning processes. Simple definition is a harmful deviation from a normal functioning of a process. One of the well-known pathologists, I can say, called as Horsfall and Diamond, 1959. So they also have their own way of defining a disease, where they call it as a malfunctioning. They call it as a malfunctioning processes in the plant body, which is due to the continuous irritation. It's a continuous irritation which results in some suffering. Hence, it is a pathological process. Here I was using a word called as a continuous irritation. Why? Because the plant diseases basically causes continuous irritation. Whereas your insect damage, what is the difference between an insect damage and disease damage? If you have to categorize or see the differences between these two, the insects will come and eat or suck the sap and then go away. Whereas your pathogens, like it is, for example, you got a viral fever, which is basically the pathogen is giving a continuous irritation to you. Whereas an ant will come and bite and go, or a honeybee will come and puncture you and then go. It is basically for a shorter period. Whereas all the pathogens or pathological processes causes a continuous irritation, causes the continuous irritation. This is a very, very important thing that you should remember. What is the difference between a damage by an insect and a damage by a pathogen as such? Okay. Lastly, there is one definition that is given by R.S. Singh and his co-workers. Et al. Means co-workers in 1989, where he defines the plant disease as the total of altered and induced biochemical reactions. Very important. The altered and induced biochemical reactions in a system of a plant or a plant part, which is brought about by the biotic or abiotic, or a mesobiotic, which is a virus, or by a mesobiotic or by a virus, leading to a malfunctioning of its physiological processes. Ultimately manifesting gradually at a cellular level. That means there is a physiological processes that is hampered in a plant, where it is gradually affecting the cellular component of the plants. which is due to a biochemical reaction between a pathogen and a plant system. Whenever the pathogen infects, there is some biochemical changes happens, because of which the physiological process also alters. Okay. So with this, now we will end up this the first class of introducing what is the plant pathology as such, and understanding the objectives of plant pathology, and defining the plant diseases in a various way. You can define plant disease in any one of these ways. It doesn't mean that you should restrict to all of it. All are providing the one or the other way the same meaning. Okay. So if you have any questions, please do raise it, or else you can also send a message so that I'll get back to you. I hope, Gavisida, I think we have a class on Friday, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Friday, I think it is between 12 to 1. Should be there. We will get back on Friday and Saturday, and we have 3 classes per week. So if you have any questions, not exactly now, or we can also ask in the next class also, so that we can also, because this gives us to understand in the very beginning. Do not hesitate to ask questions, please. It will be very, very interesting also for having a good discussion. So if no questions as of now, I will just log off, because you might be having the next class. Okay. Thank you very much for joining.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.